All right, everybody. My name is Jason Howell. I see so many familiar faces and names here. So glad that you could join us for the Texas Statewide Recovery Housing Meeting. There are more people pouring in. This is really good. All right. Let's take a look at the agenda. So definitely wanted to, we'll do a little bit of a welcome. We have a guest speaker today going to talk to us about NSTARR, and we can do some FAQs around that. Move into announcements. I definitely know that we have one announcement. Many of you may have announcements as well that we'll ask you to, if you would like to share. And then the final thing on the agenda is identifying some topics that you would be interested in the future. With that, we let some more people in the room. All right. Welcome to all the new folks coming into the room. Glad that you could join us. My name is Jason Howell. I'm the Executive Director of Recovery People. Recovery People administers the accreditation, the Recovery Housing Accreditation in Texas. And so we have a vested interest in recovery housing. At one time, we facilitated monthly recovery housing meetings. This has been a couple of years back. This is before COVID. So it's been a couple of years. And definitely, I'm committed in bringing these monthly meetings back. There's so much going on in Texas with regards to recovery housing. And so we wanted to make sure that we can have a venue or a platform to get that information to you. So without further ado, I'm really excited to welcome our friends from the Alcohol Research Group. Adrian Faxio is with let me see if I get the acronym right. It's NSTARR, but it's the National Study of Treatment and Recovery Residences. Adrian, I will turn this over to you so you can talk to us about the research that y'all have done in Texas and what you're currently doing.
Great, thank you so much, Jason. Give me 1 second here to set up the slides. Can everybody see the slides? Oh, wait, no. Okay. Can you see them now?
It's starting. There we go.
Okay. Great. Hi, everybody from California. Nice to join you all. And thank you so much for giving us a moment to introduce you to this study. We call it NSTARR for short. I'm going to talk about what it is, some of the initial findings for the state of Texas, talk about why it's important and how you can help out. Let's see if I can go to the next slide here. So why is NSTARR important? So as many of you know, recovery housing in the broader public and community is not widely known or understood. And sometimes it's misunderstood. And as a result of that, it's undervalued and not supported as it should be. And no studies have really been done to date that have comprehensively characterized what recovery housing is, where it exists across the country, where it's limited, who it serves, and what communities are underserved. So this is really the first study of its kind in that it's a nationwide study that is collecting all of this important information. And without this information, it really, our ability to advocate for this important component of recovery services is really limited. Funders, the general public really look, they want to see data. They want to know, we have to be able to describe what exists, what it looks like, where it's lacking, and whatnot. So this study is really exciting in that we are really collecting all this data to demonstrate and make the case for recovery housing. Who funds and conducts NSTARR? So the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, NIAAA, is funding the study. The study is conducted by Dr. Amy Miracle and several co-investigators from the Public Health Institute's Alcohol Research Group, where myself and Jayla Burton and Colleen Barrett is also on this in this meeting. We all work there. And Dr. Amy Miracle really is leading the study, and she's a leading expert on recovery housing. She's also a board member for NSTARR, and Jason Howell is a very valued advisor on the study. And we also have 17 study experts, leaders within the recovery housing field from Oxford House, NSTARR, and SAMHSA. So there's a lot of people kind of guiding and advising this study. So there's two aims to the study. The first aim is to put together a database of what exists across the country. As many of you know, there's kind of separate databases, but not a comprehensive database of recovery housing. So that was sort of the first task of this study. And we relied on the Oxford House website. So, looking at the directories and identifying all the recovery houses via them. And then SAMHSA Treatment Locator also identifies some recovery residences across the country. So we pulled data from that, and NSTARR affiliates, across the country, as well as just looking at websites, other websites that have some limited directories and whatnot. And we used several strategies. So one was just, looking through publicly available resources, some of the websites I just described, just doing our own investigative research. And then also just reaching out with contacts in states across the country who kind of have their pulse on what exists in their state and have some networks within the community. We also do presentations and ask folks to identify themselves at various meetings. So we've really used a lot of different strategies to kind of pull all this information together. And it's an ongoing project because, as you all know, the recovery housing landscape is constantly changing. Some houses, unfortunately, close, new ones open up, and some just become identified. Maybe they've been in existence, but maybe they haven't been tapped into certain networks and made themselves identifiable. So it's an ongoing effort. So to date, we have 10,000 and close to 10,400 unduplicated residences from about 3,600 providers. And this is nationwide. And the largest source of information was really relying on NSTARR affiliates in various states where those exist. And then the next largest source was Oxford House with 26% of the identified residences. But you can see a lot of it was kind of us filling in the gaps and doing our own sort of investigative work. So once we identified, we built this database. That was sort of the first accomplishment in this study. We collected addresses just for research purposes so that we could geocode and identify the location of these residences. And sometimes it was limited just to like a zip code, but In any case, then we're able to map out where all the recovery housing exists. And then we link it with additional contextual data on, neighborhood, county, and state characteristics. So what the demographics look like, are these houses in rural or more urban settings? What is the alcohol and drug related mortality in these locations, the COVID vulnerability index, and correctional facilities. And we created state profiles based on this analysis. So we have a Texas state profile, which we understand is a snapshot in time because it represents the recovery houses that we had identified. I'm sure there's others out there, and we rely on folks like you to really let us know that you exist, and so that we can have the most accurate kind of picture of what exists in every state. But we identified close to 600 recovery residences in Texas. Compared to other states, Texas ranks 33 in terms of recovery housing availability per capita. And 92% of the residences in Texas could be geocoded. So that means that we had at least a zip code for these residences. And you can find the Texas state profile on our website. My colleague Colleen is going to drop it in the chat box, a link to it. So you're welcome to access it or reach out to me. Or yeah, you can go to our study website and find it there. And hopefully you find it interesting. It's several pages long with some mapping and highlighting various features of where the recovery houses exist in the state. The second part, the main aim of the study, is to take a random sample of 800 residences pulled from our database and asking them to complete a survey where we collect more detailed information about kind of what the program, how the program is run, what it looks like, so that we're able to characterize recovery housing more specifically. And we've been in the field doing recruitment since January of last year, 2022. We've just crossed over the halfway point of our target number. We have 413 surveys that have been completed to date. We've been rolling out gradually across the country. We started on the East Coast, and we've completed recruitment in New England and the Mid-Atlantic regions and some of the East Coast states, and we're rolling out west. So we just started recruiting in Texas at the end of January of this year. And to date, we have 10 of the targeted 60 residences that we're aiming to have completed so far. And we'll be recruiting in all the states. So we're continuing to roll out recruitment. I think we're just the Pacific region is what we have left. And we'll be recruiting in all states by next month. And we'll be ending our recruitment by the end of June. So we're in a real crunch right now to meet our numbers. And our experience so far has been that people are generally really happy to learn that we're doing this study and appreciate the importance of it. But we've learned that in this line of work, people wear many different hats, are pulled in very many different directions, and understandably completing a survey is not like top of their priority. So really getting people to actually complete the survey has been challenging. It's also, the survey is, it's a one-time web-based survey that should be completed by a recovery residence operator. For Oxford houses, it's like a senior resident or a house president, somebody who really knows how the house is run and can answer, you know, a range of questions. The survey is admittedly quite lengthy. It takes about 30 minutes to complete, but it doesn't have to be completed all in one sitting. So you can start and stop and return to it. Folks who are randomly sampled and complete the survey get a $20 gift card as a thank you for completing it. So how you can help is that if you're approached by Colleen or Jayla, who also does recruitment, participate in the survey. Try to carve out time to get it done. I know it seems like a big ask, but it's really to kind of elevate the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and to generate more support. So in the long run, hopefully it'll pay off. So when one of our staff reach out to you, we're sending out a letter, then we make phone calls and try to reach you via phone and then follow up via email. If you could respond and participate, that would be super helpful. The other thing is, because we've had such a challenge kind of meeting our numbers, we have opened up the study to volunteers. So if you could volunteer to complete a survey, that would be hugely helpful. And I have a link here. Colleen's going to drop it in the chat where you can just, if you click on that link, you can fill out a short form, and then we'll follow up with you and send you a survey link and password to take the survey. Yeah, so that has been really helpful as well. So that's it for the presentation, but I'm here to answer any questions that any of you may have about anything.
I'm looking at the chat. There were a couple of questions around, could people see, other states' reports? Colleen's been really good at dropping in additional links. And then the last, there was a request to put the survey link in the chat, and Colleen did that as well.
Okay.
We've got somebody that said, awesome project. Any other questions people might have, you can put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask Adrienne directly.
Yeah, and you can definitely access any state reports on our study website. So the study website is nstarr.arg.org. And if you go to the products page, you'll see all of the state reports available.
One of the things that really struck me was kind of a punch in the gut. Texas is ranked 33rd in the number of recovery residences per capita. Not that Texans are competitive. First of all, I was like, okay, who's number one? Why aren't we there? But do you think that at the end of this, that you'll have a sense of like why some states just have, much better access to recovery housing than others?
Yeah, I mean, we, the analysis will really highlight what I think what the underlying issues are and why. So I imagine, it's some of the smaller states where it's a less populated, perhaps, where they maybe rank a little higher. Because I mean, Texas has a hefty number of recovery houses, so it is a little bit surprising that they rank so low. But I guess that's in relation to the population side.
Hi, Adrienne. That was a great presentation. I have a question. So I'm working with Jason. He's doing recovery house manager training right now. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if, since you're using the geocoding to sort of track out and map where all of the residences are, if we could do some sort of an overlay with the zip codes that we have for our recovery house managers and just see on your like kind of primary source, if we did an overlay to just kind of see if we were on the mark as far as touching the people that needed to be touched?
Yeah, absolutely. I would suggest that you could email me, and I could link you up with Dr. Amy Miracle, who heads the study, and she would probably be happy to work with you to help in that regard.
So in the chat, I see there was something from Carolina asking if this would be the appropriate venue to get information about opening up a recovery home. Carolina, I will put say info@recoverypeople.org, and you can email us directly there and get you connected with various resources. Then Robert asked, as a volunteer completing the survey, does it mean that he would be part of the study?
Let's see, what do you mean by part of the study? So like it would be important that all recovery houses are represented in this study. So you can go to the form and you can, if you don't want to complete a survey, you don't have to. You can just identify yourself. So to ensure that your recovery residence is represented in the database, which is, you know, the geocoding analysis that we do. But if you want to complete a survey, that would be really appreciated as well. You would not be identified if you don't want to be identified. You know, just this is just for research purposes. So this is not your recovery house would not be kind of highlighted in any sort of way if you have concerns about, you know, just kind of. I know a lot of people don't want a whole lot of publicity or spotlight on them. And this is really going to be an aggregate form. So it's not highlighting names of recovery houses or anything like that if you complete the survey. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
A couple more questions. Let's see here. Where will the study identify where recovery housing is needed? So is that what you meant by like kind of geocoding and I'm trying to think of the other thing. There is like a heat map or something as well.
Yes. So that is what some of the geocoding analysis is designed to do, is to really identify where housing is limited, and because they're pulling from, you know, state and national data on alcohol and drug mortality rates and correctional facilities, and where, you know, to see where geographically the need might be, and to be able to discern is recovery housing accessible in those places. So absolutely, this is designed to address those.
So Marcy asked, of the 3,628 providers countrywide that didn't fall under NARR and Oxford House, who made up the roughly 1,400 other providers?
Who made, you mean how were they identified, or what kinds of providers are they?
Yeah, what kinds of, sorry,
Go for it, Marcy.
who made up the other providers? So if they weren't NAR affiliates and they weren't Oxford, who were the other, like the other 1,400 providers that were surveyed, or that were in the study?
So there are some providers that are not connected to NAR affiliates across the country, and there's some states that don't even have NAR affiliates. So I don't think the providers, I can't say this for sure, but I don't think the providers look that different than there may be, you know, there's analysis to be done there to see if they look different from the NAR identified providers. I don't know if that answers your question, but they've been identified through sort of detective work and online research and then just people contact within the recovery housing leadership who sometimes they know, oh, this is not a NAR, this isn't a member and any connection to NAR, but I know that these houses exist.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Adrian, I could probably also add to that.
Yeah.
We do, within the search, we did use the SAMHSA treatment locator, and some of these treatment locations also do have sober living. So that is also probably some of the other providers that are included with this.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
There was a question around geocoding. What is geocoding?
Well, I'm not a geocoder. I'm a project coordinator, so I don't feel like I have the scientific expertise exactly to answer that, but it's basically it's another word for mapping, I believe. Where houses are and really looking at all kinds of data from a geographical standpoint.
All right.
I
Any
could
other
probably
questions?
also add to
Yeah,
that
please.
too. So like Adrian did say, all of these residents that we do have the zip code. And with the study, this is going to allow us, all of the residents to link with contextual information, such as data on alcohol and treatment availability, as well as alcohol outlets, as well as like the crime statistics. So if you are contacted and wanting to, fill out a survey and give us some information on your residences. And if you don't feel comfortable necessarily providing your address, we do at least ask for a zip code, because that will allow us to pinpoint, or not exactly pinpoint where your residences are, but it just kind of aggregates all of the residences together within the state or that area.
And thank you, Bob. Bob put I don't know where the source is, but a definition of geocoding. Provides geographic coordinates corresponding to a location, participants' residential address were geocoded, enabling individual survey data to be linked with a data on land use. So some examples.
And it looks like we're getting some volunteer submissions. So thank you. Thanks to those of you who have volunteered. Really appreciate it.
Other questions for the NSTARR folks?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I am actually in the process of researching this with a group out of Seattle, are mentoring called Cake House. And that's what they are promoting, helping people, us to learn how we can help. If someone, let's say a private, like those 1,400s that you were talking about, are probably a small, someone has one or two houses. What is the best way to promote your services? Basically, to get the clients. If someone is going to get and create a recovery house.
That's a question for Jason, so I'll defer to him.
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking the question, because we have seen a lot of people, open a recovery home, and it's the kind of the build it and they will come type of approach. And the easiest thing in my mind is to actually set up the home. The more difficult thing is to get the home filled and keep it filled by managing it really, really well. So I'm glad that you're asking that question and kind of developing, who in the community are you going to establish good relationships with, so that they know that you are providing the service. I see Cyrus has his hand up. Cyrus may have a suggestion for you or not.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask a follow-up question to that, although it does relate to, but yeah, I'll wait until, sorry about that. I didn't mean to mix y'all up.
No, Cyrus, I was, sorry, I was putting you on the spot. I should have more appropriately just said Cyrus has a question and turn the floor over to you.
So I guess to just complete my question, where would you suggest that we find information? I'm been giving a lot of information. I just wanted to make sure that there's not something I'm missing.
Well, I think the question you asked is a really big question. I don't know whether we have enough time to cover it all. Earlier, I put info@recoverypeople.org in the chat. I'll put it in there again. That would be a way that you can contact us outside of this, and then get a clear understanding of, what your needs are and what resources we might be able to connect you with.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, Cyrus, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the answer you'd given earlier, both you and Adrian, regarding determining where there's a need for recovery housing. So I'm looking at the Texas report, and I also kind of looked at California just as a reference, and I see that you've got several types of heat maps. I could imagine this could easily turn into a full-blown tutorial, but could you just maybe share one or two tips on how would you be able to decipher all that info right now and go, oh, okay, yeah, in this part of Texas, or for example, I can see there's a great need based on this data. Because again, I'm looking at your Texas report right now, and it looks like great information, but I can imagine I could easily spend an hour or two just digging into this to figure out, oh, okay, based on this rural urban classification code or this population of whatever, I see there's demand. I don't know if there's any top of mind tips, even one tip that comes to mind, if you wanted to see where there was a way we could provide more housing to folks that badly need it. Sorry, I hope my question made sense.
It definitely makes sense. I'm just,
Okay.
I'm a little, I feel a little unprepared to.
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
answer it. No, it's okay. But I mean, my sense is, so that is one of the objectives of this study, is to see where the housing exists and where it's needed.
Mhm.
I'm, a project coordinator, so I'm not the one who knows exactly how that's gonna, how that analysis will be done, but I imagine looking at where correctional facilities are, looking at alcohol and drug mortality rates geographically, and then I'm sure there are other kinds of data that would demonstrate where a need is, and then comparing that to where the recovery housing is located.
Oh, wow, thank you. That helps a lot. Yeah. Just for what it's worth, I actually tried looking at all the Oxford homes. I was shocked to find out that Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, has close to 50, and Austin has, or I might be getting it mixed up, but at least between those two cities, you've got, 70 or 80 just in those two cities. So I don't know if that's a sign that, oh, it's pretty saturated, we need to focus on other cities, or is that a sign that that's still not enough? So, so I'm not a millionaire per se, so I want to be able to help the maximum number of people with, whatever capital I've got. So choosing the right locations is really important for me in my personal situation, to be able to help as many people as possible. So.
Yeah, and let me make a plug for doing the survey, because actually one of the questions is, do you have a waiting list? So to be able to know, so we in the survey, we ask, what is your capacity? How many current residents do you have? And do you have a waiting list? So that survey data, of course, it's not the larger data set of the database, but that would definitely help us identify an unmet need if there's waiting lists at a lot of these houses.
Thank
In
you.
a certain geographic area.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, well, all of you.
One of the
Thank
things I'm dropping in the chat is just to help remind me, towards the end of the call today, we'll do a poll that would identify future topics that our community wants to talk about. And so that might be one is, how do we think through identifying the need, geographically, population wise, et cetera. All right. And we got a thumbs up from Claudia. Any other questions? Hi, Patricia. Glad you joined. All right. Well, with that, I really want to thank y'all for, telecommuting from California into Texas and sharing, what NSTARR has done thus far and the great work that you're doing. I hope that as the results of this next phase become available, that we can welcome you back and highlight that work as well.
Thank you so much for letting us join you. It's been great.
We've got a question about how do people get notified of future meetings like this? That's a great question. If you registered for this, then we will definitely put you on the email list notifying you of future meetings. And then we'll also be posting the meeting times and dates on both the Trone and Recovery People website. All right, speaking of announcements, I know Lisa, Matt, you were going to announce an opportunity. Would you like to take the floor?
Sure. My name is Lisa Matt. I am peer-to-career coordinator here at Recovery People. And right now I am recruiting for our 2023 Trone Fellowship. This is a program for recovery house managers to go through our recovery house management training program, followed by the completion and documentation of 250 experience hours. And throughout that experience hours portion, they'll be receiving a $5,000 stipend. So this is money that they can receive on top of, in addition to any other kinds of compensation they're receiving. And this is through a program funded by HRSA. We're going to have 27 slots available this year, and we're trying to get the information out as wide and far as possible to try to get representation from all throughout our state, all different kinds of backgrounds. So please encourage any of your house managers to apply, or if you'd like to apply yourself to receive the training, you're welcome to do so. And I'm going to drop the information in the chat. There's the application link and my email address as well, if you want to contact me with any questions. As far as deadlines, the sooner applications can come in, the better. We are going to start the training in April, so that the sooner people apply, the sooner they're going to be able to get considered for one of the main fellowship slots. And there's going to be others that are going to receive the opportunity to receive the training as well. They just may not get stipends if they don't apply soon.
We have a question. Is that training just for Texas recovery housing?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. It is for house managers residing and working in Texas. And yeah, I can send you the link to your email address, Raylon. That's not a problem.
Any questions for Lisa? What about other announcements, other recovery housing related announcements that people would like to make?
Jason, can I share the information about what's happened here in Houston with the city of Houston?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, the city of Houston, they've been rattling their sabers at us for a long, long time. And we've been advocating for them to create a separate category within their ordinances for recovery homes or simply exclude recovery homes. And they have been out to visit multiple times, different houses, never wrote a citation until recently. They were empowered by some new legislation. They finally wrote a citation. I filed a request for a reasonable accommodation with the city. And I also filed a complaint with Department of Housing and Urban Development. They found that the city may be, quote unquote, may be in violation of certain sections of the federal code. And they forwarded that to the city of Houston, and the city of Houston dropped their citations against me. I don't know whether they're going to try to simply provide me with a reasonable accommodation, because I know they're running around still rattling their sabers at other providers. I'm working with a guy now who the city just went out and visited middle of last week. So they're still trying to enforce their boarding home ordinance on recovery homes. So we need a change in the ordinance or some exclusion or some other. I know House Bill 299 is coming around where that's going to, I believe, how is House Bill 299 going to affect what local ordinances are doing?
Is Elizabeth Henry on the line?
I am. Hi, you guys. Great question, Ralph. One of my favorite topics. So far right now, just a little fun fact. Even though we only have 5 months of session, we can't actually hear bills in a committee until March 10th. So right now, there's a lot of momentum and support for House Bill 299, and funding hopefully will come with that as well. So what House Bill 299 will do is it will strengthen language in Texas statute, establish language that would support the growth and expansion of Oxford House chartered homes as well as NSTARR accredited homes. It specifically points to those two standards in order to qualify for certain types of programs or funding that may be with the state, as well as referrals. A lot of that is linked to patient brokering and exploitation that's happening across the state that we get phone calls about as well. So there's, like I said, there's hopefully going to be some funding, a rider attached to it. It defines in statute what recovery housing is, and it uses the SAMHSA definition, which is a nationally used definition of recovery housing. There's also language that we hope is going to be in the committee substitute, and that's just a bill that the drafters are reworking with new language. That's all that means. We're hoping that language gets added that also stipulates that chartered and accredited recovery housing are to be treated as a single family home and its residents as a single family unit. That's really important to help stop the overregulation that's happening and the boarding home regulations that are being enforced on recovery housing as well. So that's kind of how we're trying to address some of the fair housing issues, Ralph, that you've been up against for how many years now, and some other homes that are up against that same thing as well. And the single family unit is hopefully going to help stop the city ordinances around how many unrelated people can live together. Because if recovery housing is treated as a single family home and recognized as a single family home, then those occupancy limits outside of fire and safety code, of course, would not apply. So we've got some different mechanisms in there. We're really trying to provide y'all as much safety and protection as we can, so that you can thrive and grow and keep doing the awesome work that you guys are doing.
So Elizabeth, as you were talking, it sounds like the updated language, if you will, is going to be provided in a committee substitute. Do we have any general idea of like when?
All right, in your browser, go to admin.google.com.
I'm sorry, Jason, do we what?
You said that there is updated language.
Mhm.
When will that become like official? So I'm trying to think if we were to in future statewide meetings like this, if we were to schedule time to talk about the bill language, we would probably want to do it after that official language is already out. Do we have a sense of when that might be?
As soon as the bill is assigned to a committee, so probably around the 10th of March, the beginning of March, as soon as that bill is assigned to a committee, the committee substitute can be submitted to the committee. So although it might live in the background, and only the bill author will be able to see it, once it gets assigned to a committee, they can trade out the bill language and the substitute can be sent to the committee.
Thank you.
So we still have a few more weeks.
Okay, so I just would like to add that if anybody's out getting harassed by the city of Houston, or I would think any entity, you know, around Texas, I would be happy to help at the point where when a citation is issued, some harm is occurring, to file a discrimination case with HUD, because the more discrimination cases that go out against these municipalities, at least they're off my back for the moment. They may be kicking the can down the road until some ordinance, until the ordinance changes, or they'll just leave me alone. It may well be that house by house by house by house, they're going to have to be provided a reasonable accommodation, you know, until there's an overarching change that's made. But I can certainly be helpful to some folks if they're getting harassed and helping them file a HUD complaint.
So I see there's a comment in the chat, and then I see that Alexis has her hand up. So Kelsey in the chat is asking, is this national or state level? So the Oxford House standards and NAR standards are national, but the laws that Elizabeth was talking about, that's at the state level. And then Ralph was talking about how the city of Houston, or so that's a local ordinance, how they are applying it. So there's different levels of government going on at the same time. Alexis, you've been patient with your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question regarding, because I know for a fact we don't have a lot of recovery houses, if any, here in the Rio Grande Valley. I know it's very much needed, but the thing is, I wanted to know if there's any in the works. I know Tropical was making one, but it's very small. I believe Matthew told me it was only 9 men. So very, very small. If there's any other ones, because a big thing about the RGV that kind of holds people back from getting the support that they need is the checkpoint.
Yes.
So.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I think you and I will get to see each other on next Wednesday. So I definitely let's talk about that even more. I do know that we have some folks that work for the state on the line. So thank you for advocating. What I'm interpreting that is we need funding for recovery housing, or to open up recovery housing in the valley. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
All right. Is there a cost to get certified? Yes. I'm assuming that you're talking about NAR certification. Colin is that it's what, 500 plus $10 a bed? Is that correct? All right, we have about 10 minutes left in the call. Let's do a poll real quick. Okay, see if I can get this going. It's a Mentimeter poll. No, that's for every certification is good for 2 years. All right, so I'm going to copy this. This is a word cloud. So in the chat, I'm putting a link to a poll. If you click on the link, then you can answer this question. The question is, what topics should be covered during future Texas statewide recovery housing meetings? And as you enter those words, they will appear in a word cloud on the screen. And if we have multiple people choosing the same topic, that word will be bigger than the other. So it's a way of kind of collecting ideas and prioritizing ideas in the future. Thanks for putting that in there, Dee. So Dee put Oxford House Texas.org for vacancies. That would be Oxford House vacancies. Oh, those are two different websites. I'm sorry. Thanks for putting that in there. All right, so we've got talking about legislation. Okay, Matt Friendly, eligibility criteria. So Matt seems to be a popular. Sustainability, that's great. Young adults in recovery. Be Well Texas had a grant around emerging youth, so we might be able to bring them in to talk about that. Barriers to starting, parole approved, available housing. Wow, these are lots of great ideas here. Excellent. Drug courts, finding a location, overcoming challenges, the different types of support. Look like, so we've got Matt and Matt Friendly trending, and legislation. Those seem to be the two most popular. There is Project Homes that we could have representatives from Project Homes, which is specific to MAT recovery housing, have them come report out. I think that would be, and we've got some of those housing providers on this call now. So we definitely can get that on the calendar. We can ask Elizabeth back to talk about legislation. In the chat, we said parolee approved has definitely been a challenge for us over the years. So we can elevate that topic as well. All right, we've had 18 people participate thus far. Any others? Elizabeth puts, we're asking the legislature to help fund expansion of recovery housing so that providers do not have a cost associated with initial accreditation. Thank you for that. All right, well, we have 20 people who've participated thus far. I will take these topics and then start trying to find some guest speakers so that we can bring this to you up and coming. I see, Robert, you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you for putting together, you and the staff, putting together such a great meeting, training. My question is, is there any more particulars? I really appreciate you answering my question around the cost of registration in the 2 years, but is there anything particular that we need to know to get registered beyond those two things?
So the application process is online, and actually you don't have to pay for it till you submit it. So you can walk through the process. It's meant to be educational in nature, and explore it if you want. Put trone.org. No, come on, auto spell. There, I put a link to the website in the chat. Again, if you go to any of our websites, in the bottom right-hand corner, there'll be a little kind of chat box looking thing. If you click that, you can, that's one way to find us and ask a question. If you want to email us directly, it's info@recoverypeople.org. Christy, we did record this meeting, and so we will circulate the recording to everybody, and then also post it. So I'm glad that you were here.
Thank you again, Jason.
Thank you, Robert. All right, we've got 4 minutes at the top of the hour. Any final comments, questions, thoughts? Well, let's see, HB 299, the law we are talking about. Yes, it's not a law yet. It is a bill that HB 299 is a bill that was filed this session by Representative Murr. All right. Well, with just a few minutes at the top of the hour, I want to thank everybody for your interest in recovery housing. Recovery housing is something very important to me. It's definitely helped me get where I'm at. And so it was exciting to see so many people registered. We had 64 plus people attend. We have researchers that are helping us answer questions that we couldn't answer before. 15 years ago when I started all this, nobody cared about recovery housing. So it's really exciting to see all the energy that's built up. So until next time, I hope that y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll stay in contact. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.